Yeah, just to corroborate what you were saying on a personal front here, the home across the street from us had been foreclosed on. Sheriff had evicted the previous occupants. It sat unowned for a period of over 2 years, but with squatters in there, and even with notification by neighbors to the mortgage company, no action was taken. And now finally it's been 2 years, and it's finally back in legitimate sale and ownership again. So absolutely, people around the country have seen exactly what you're saying, and it does really make you pause and wonder about the expedited enforcement of what that you were subject to.
Well, and it's, and I don't have a criticism per se with how quickly, the foreclosure and the liquidation of my property took. Believe it or not, I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I think speedy enforcement of the law is a good thing. The point that I'm making is that because we no longer have the rule of law, there is no longer equal protection. And so what people need to understand is that these rules and these systems are not enforced equally. And they are, in fact, today enforced selectively according to the political persuasion of the people in question. And with Facebook and all of this social media and everything that goes on the internet is there forever. And let's face it, surveillance. I mean, I assume, and not in a paranoid way, but I assume that all of my email correspondence is surveilled. I know that it's stored somewhere. And I also assume that there are algorithms listening, not necessarily human beings, but definitely algorithms listening to telephone conversations and things like that. I, of course, don't worry about this because I am so forthright and so outspoken that that's basically my hedge against all that. It doesn't matter if I'm being surveilled because I have nothing politically to hide at all. I don't need to hide behind any of this. But for you all out there, you need to understand these dynamics. So one point that I want to make with regards to the audit process. So 18 months after the audit starts, it finally wraps up. And lo and behold, what's the verdict? I overpaid. I viciously overpaid. In fact, the lady who was on the ground, the IRS auditor lady who was my direct interface and would actually come and see me personally, she was a nice gal. I have no animosity against her personally. We actually had some pretty interesting conversations. But she actually recommended to me that I should sue my accountants for malpractice. You won't believe this. I mean, you think that if you're paying $250 per man per hour to accountants to take care of all your books, that you're investing in this so that I don't have to spend an excess amount of time, keeping everything straight and doing all this, and you expect a certain level of service. These guys left all of my interest expense for I think 3 years sitting in retained earnings. And my IRS auditor, she was just sitting there absolutely incredulous, and then she said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you with this because the amendment window for these return years is closed, so you can't even refile." And I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. But I think it's I am very happy to be where I am now, and I'm not bitter at all, and we pray for all of our friends and all of our enemies, and we move on with life. But the point I want to make about the audit is that even if your books are pristine, even if you've overpaid, which was my situation, pristine books plus this horrific error in which caused me to overpay in some of the top earning years of my career, it doesn't matter. So there are people out there who are still not comprehending the fact that the rule of law no longer exists. These audits and this business of sicking the IRS on people, guys, this is not about trying to find people who are quote-unquote cheating on their taxes. They know your books are clean. They know that you guys are solid. I mean, you are the class of people who have the cleanest books, the lowest chance of tax fraud, the lowest chance of underpayment. In fact, you are the people who, if anything, are overpaying on your taxes. It's not about that. What it's about, and what it ended up being about for me, was in fact it's trying to cripple you and intimidate you, and in some cases destroy you as a small business person through this malicious auditing, and maybe you can even call it litigation too. I mean, you have to pay your accountants boatloads of money, boatloads of hours to defend against all this. And I mean, my audits, it was line by line on everything. It was clearly this business of just trying to force you to go broke and to spend inordinate amounts of time. That's what it's about. And it's also, most people find it stressful and terrifying and all of this. That's what it's about. It doesn't matter that your books are clean. Even if your books are clean and you come through the audit on the other side and everything's fine, if you come through the audit on the other side and the IRS owes you a small refund, you can still be completely destroyed financially when you get your bill from your attorneys and from your accountants who have spent all this time defending you against all this. That's what it's about. So don't sit back and say, look, the IRS can come after me if they want. My books are clean. I don't have anything to worry about. Yes, you still do, because of the massive expense of this thing. And, you know what the state of this usurper government is. These are brutal people who are largely sociopaths and psychopaths who have absolutely no problem destroying your life, destroying your business, scaring you to death, and destroying the quality of your life, if not actually destroying your business itself. They do this for giggles. They do this to try to intimidate you and punish you and to keep you so where you won't speak out against this regime. That's what it's all about. So that's what I would encourage you to remember in all this.
Now, beyond your IRS audit that you just described, going through that ordeal and the clear and present danger that is to anyone who falls into that trap, it didn't stop there for you. I mean, there was this more recent events that happened as well.
Oh no! So it was my birthday actually. It was October 27th of 2012. I woke up, opened up my iPad and just went and checked my bank account, and I had just liquidated a piece of agricultural real estate, and had recently received a settlement wire in for the sale and the liquidation of this piece of farm ground. The IRS saw this. They had apparently been watching my bank account, and I had already, because I had declared a tax strike, I had already been very careful about keeping my bank accounts drawn way, way, way down, and also a financial market strike at that point, because this is well after MF Global. And so I was just using my bank accounts for the absolute necessities, just hand-to-mouth amounts of money sitting in the bank account. Well, they see the settlement wire come in, and when in fact you sell a piece of real estate, you can't ask for the settlement payment in $100 bills. It has to be done in a wire transfer. So, sure enough, that hits my bank account. They see it. The IRS sees it. And they sweep. That's the first time they actually came in and swept my bank account. So I wake up, and the day before I had 5 figures sitting in my bank account. I woke up that morning, and my bank account was, I think, negative $150. And it was negative $150 because Wells Fargo, God bless them, charges you a $150 service fee to have an IRS garnishment put through to have your account swept. I mean, talk about twisting the knife, right? So I wake up on my birthday, October 27, 2012, see that and say, all right, that's how it's going to be. So be it. And in fact, I think I misspoke on my dates. I was notified that I was in foreclosure on my office condominium in December 28, 2012, and then it sold in 2013 in June. So that was the order of events there. But so I said, okay, it's on now. And I knew I didn't go into declaring an IRS tax strike publicly on the internet, openly, over and over and over again, thinking that there wouldn't actually be any real consequences to this. I knew that this process would play out. Then in the subsequent months, every so often, a garnishment will come through. Since then, I've never really had too terribly much money. Like I said, the bank accounts now are completely hand to mouth, and there are times when my bank account only has, 2 digits in it, $10, $20, $50, something like that, just enough to keep it open and keep it running. And then monies are deposited into it when a payment that essentially has to go out through a bank account is executed. Well, bank account garnishments, that's only step one. Now, last year, about a year ago, I've moved to the van down by the river. I can obviously no longer work in any way that would generate any sort of tax withholding or anything like that. So all work I do is menial, janitorial, cash under the table type work. Well, that's great, and it's great to keep busy, and I really enjoy that work. But that wasn't enough to live on. I had the savings were pretty much exhausted. So I put a PayPal donation button up on my website. Okay, now a couple weeks ago, the IRS swept my PayPal account. Again, same thing. I was smart enough to know that eventually that day would come, and it has come, and I would keep that PayPal account drawn down, drawn down, drawn down. I operate as much as I possibly can in cash. And it's all about, pulling money out of ATM machines and just doing anything I possibly can to get this stuff turned into cash, which, again, is physically defensible. If the IRS wants to garnish my cash holdings, they're going to have to come here to where I physically am, and, good luck with that, guys. Good luck with that. I don't foresee that happening. So that's where we are now, but I'm almost completely to the point where I am a person who can no longer transact any movement of money electronically. Everything has to be in the form of cash. And again, I knew this day would come, and don't cry for me. I wouldn't trade this for anything, but this is how it plays out. And so if that data set and my experiences and me going out front on this can help other people plan in advance for this, then there it is. I mean, you need to have physical. You need to have physical. You need to have. I absolutely recommend at this point getting in on gold. I think it's pretty clear that gold is in fact a good buy right now, and has been for quite some time. Quite a good buy, and you also need to be stacking cash as much as you can, and just be ready and understand that they will come after you, and it will be targeted, and they will move quicker based upon your political affiliations and how outspoken you are politically.